Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to LinkedIn Tuesday. It's June 6, 2023. We're very glad you're with us this afternoon. Thank you for joining us. Please note this event is being recorded and is currently live on Facebook. The recording will be on the Career DFW Facebook page and the Career USA YouTube channel for others to view in the future. By participating in this event, you give consent for your name and picture to appear. Please note that any comments you put in the Zoom chat window will not appear in the recording. For those people on Zoom, if you have any questions throughout the presentation, please just enter them in the chat window. As our speaker takes a break, we'll be sure to get those questions answered for you. For those watching on Facebook this afternoon, thank you for joining us. Just enter any questions you've got into the comment field. We are monitoring that feed and we'll be sure to get those questions answered for you. Also, feel free in the comment field to connect with everybody else who's on the call today. Put in your name, comma, position you're looking for, comma, a couple target companies, comma, your email address, comma, your LinkedIn address, and connect with everybody else who's on here. Expand your connections. You can just tell people when you send them that personal note that you saw them here today at LinkedIn Tuesday. Well, good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, everybody. My name is Jeff Morris. Back in 2008, I started a website called careerdfw.org, a website to help those who are unemployed in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. In 2012, I launched a second website, careerusa.org, to help those around the United States. I have written a book called What I've Learned About Your Job Search You May Not Know. It is available on Amazon. And since 2007, I've been facilitating and leading the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group. The group's been around since the late 1990s. We meet every Friday morning. And I'll tell you about our upcoming program this coming Friday at the end of this session. And since 2017, I've been a member of the practice interview team. Remember, your LinkedIn profile and your resume aren't going to get you a job. What they get you is a phone call. How well you practice your interviewing skills, that's what's going to get you your next job. Well, we have 4 outstanding speakers who rotate through on a monthly basis to talk about LinkedIn. They're constantly updating their presentation month by month and trying to share the latest and greatest information they see and hear about. Today, our speaker is Locke Alderson. He's been in the recruiting business for many, many, many years, and he's going to talk about how to use LinkedIn for job hunting, strategies that get results. So, Locke, thank you very much for being with us today, and I'll turn it over to you.
You got to allow me to get on the screen.
Yep, you should be ready to go.
What's going on, Jeff? It's really not working today.
Yep, just click on from beginning. I think that should set it up okay. Oop.
I'm having trouble getting there. Is it up?
There we go. You're good to go.
Okay. I'm trying to be. Jeff and I are working with each other. He's working with a he's a nerd and I'm a techno not nerd. So anyway, well, welcome. Thanks for having me, Jeff. It's been a pleasure to work with him over the years. We've known each other probably for at least 10 years, and I'll quit there. I've been a recruiter, as Jeff mentioned, for about 42 years. Had my own recruiting firm as part of that for 12 years here in Dallas. And I've worked for a number of companies like Oracle, Siebel, Raytheon, E-Systems, and Rockwell Microelectronics, Glidden Data Systems, and Continental Airlines out in Los Angeles when they were headquartered out there. I've been working with LinkedIn since probably 2004, something like that. And so I'm a longtime user with LinkedIn. And I do, and as part of my job hunting skills, when I've been a job hunter, I've looked at scripture because that's always an encouragement to me. This is a verse from Jeremiah 29:11 in the Old Testament. For I know the plans that I have for you, plans for success, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. So that's one of the things that I look for, encouragement. And as a matter of fact, I was looking at Isaiah today in the Old Testament and for encouragement as well. But why use LinkedIn? Again, we're going to talk about LinkedIn, why use it. And we're going to take a look at your profile and some of the things that you can do with that, some of the things you may know, some of the things that you may not know, some of the things that you may not even be using. Again, we're going to look at your dashboard, and that's something that you want to use to see who's looking at you and find out what they're doing and how you appear to others. Again, that's kind of the feedback that you get, even though you may not be getting calls from people, you may be showing up in their searches. And if you're not showing up in their actual looking at your profiles, you're going to do some things about that or try to do that. We're going to take a look at your professional work history and things that you can do there. And we're going to also take a look at your skills section. I was working with somebody last week, and they were unaware, even though you may have 50 skills, that only 3 of them show up to the general public unless like click and say, show more. Again, sometimes a lot of people don't do that. So again, we're going to show you how to rearrange those so that you can make the ones that you want to be on top show up there. How do you go about optimizing your profile so that you get found? Again, Ruth Lipsky, another good speaker. How do you drive people to your profile? And then let's take a look at how recruiters actually search for jobs. Having been a recruiter, as I said, for a number of years, how do recruiters go about that search process and try and find you? And then how do you use LinkedIn for searching for jobs and applying for jobs? And then some items that you may want to take a look at on your resume, a short checklist of homework that you need to check on your list. So let's go on and do that. So again, why use LinkedIn? Again, it's the #1 tool that recruiters use in finding people. Probably 93% of the recruiters in the country, around the world, use it to try and find people. And one of the reasons it started out as a networking tool where salesmen and salespeople to exchange leads and information about others and other companies. And it is one of the primary sources of candidates for jobs. Again, networking is still the big dog around, probably 40 to 50%, maybe even as high as 80% of the jobs are found through networking. But LinkedIn, along with some of the other job boards, are very prevalent in the remainder of that time, whether it's 30, 40, 50% of the time. And job search is a team sport. So why play it alone? Let others help you in your search, and why networking is so important. One comment that somebody, a user of LinkedIn, after he found a job, made the comment, LinkedIn has been an irreplaceable tool in my job search. The ability to show employers the exact experience that I have and skills on my profile is what ultimately landed me the job. And that's been the feedback I've gotten from some of the people I've worked with on their profiles. Your help on LinkedIn is what got me the interview and ultimately landed me the job. Jeff mentioned the practice interview team. I can only advocate, if you haven't gone through that, take the time to at least sit in and be an observer. I've been on the interview team for a couple of years before my schedule got kind of crazy. And even as a recruiter for 40 years, I learned a few things as part of the practice interview team. So do participate in that, take advantage of it, and it's free. So let's take a look at the job hunting process using LinkedIn. We're going to look at your profile, the headline, your dashboard, which is your analytics section, telling about what's going on with your profile in LinkedIn. The about section used to be called the summary. You're open to work and why you need to take advantage of that. Taking a look at your experience and things that you can do to beef that up to get more attractive to others, and skills and endorsements. Then how do you optimize your profile? Well, it all starts with your LinkedIn profile. Again, like resumes, you've heard the saying perhaps about recruiters, and recruiters look at your resume for 6 to 10 seconds. Well, the same is true for your profile. And you can notice this is one of my profiles. I've updated it a couple of times, and you can see some of the differences as we get further along. You notice I've got my name there. I've got a headshot. I've got a profile picture. A banner shot in the background. I used a banner shot from one of the cruises that we went on in the Caribbean. Others do other things with it, put word pictures back there behind it. Jeff has got a very effective one for his. So you might want to look at his. In this particular slide, I'm also open to work, which is right down here. Again, but I've limited to recruiters only. So that banner from 5 o'clock to 9 o'clock doesn't show up in this one. But if your headline is the only thing that people see, and that's this area right here below your name, what does it say about you? Does it capture? Now let the recruiter capture who you really are. Okay. And recruiters almost always will be filtering their searches on location. So you do want to have your location. And that's one of the things that you can cover in the open to work section. We'll show you that in a minute. But having a complete profile link in LinkedIn, having the all-star status, has benefits for you because each section of LinkedIn has a value to it. And when a search is performed by the algorithm in LinkedIn, your values in each of those sections head up, and the people with the highest score based on the criteria that's been established by the recruiter are going to be the top of the list the recruiter gets to look at. Use a professional headshot. Don't use one of those where you have your hands on a Van de Graaff generator. I don't know whether you ever did that out at the science place here in Dallas where your hair stood up on end. You look like the guy from Back to the Future. Again, you know, that had the wild looking hair. You don't want that to be them. You also don't want one that's real casual. You want to look very professional like you're job hunting. That's why there's a difference between my casual picture here and the one that Jeff shows on the intro to the presentation today. Your headline, the title of the job that you're applying for. If you don't use one, again, it's going to default to the last job title in your employment section. And remember that you can also use multiple job titles there, and we'll show you how to beef that up as well. Open to work, we've talked about section is the summary. It's an overview of your career with keywords from your profession. Your contact information, I can't emphasize this enough. I was working with a candidate last week, talking about her profile. And while she has her contact information in the about section, it's not on the first line. And if I'm not directly related to you, that's a first degree connection, and I don't have your contact information, it makes it a little bit more difficult for me to get in touch with you. And as a recruiter, I may move on to the next candidate with a comparable background who is easy to get in touch with. So put that contact information on the top line of your about section. It can be elsewhere in your about section too. Jeff also includes it in his banner photo in the background. Your experience section, you want to use the title, your job title. If you have an unusual job title, use the one that's generally used in industry. Like a member of technical staff 3 really didn't describe who you are. And the job title is a shorthand for some of what you do, and who you are, what kind of specialization that you have. Also want to use some keywords from your profession in the about section. Your skills area is vitally important. You want to do that. You can use up to 50 endorsements or something where somebody has commented that you've really got those skills and you're proficient with it. And it used to be pretty easy. There used to be a checkbox on that, but LinkedIn has updated that, so it's a little bit more difficult to endorse somebody. And your education awards and certification and professional development, like a lot of people, they don't update their education section. What have they done to keep their skills current? Those professional things. Taking LinkedIn classes, and LinkedIn offers a whole bunch of classes now that you can get certified in. So those are some of the things that you want to take a look at. Some of those tests that you can take on LinkedIn are fairly short. I think they're 10 or 15 questions, and you have to answer and pass with a 70, or you can't accept the certification. They give you one more chance at it, or you have to wait for a year. And the recommendations, those are vitally important. If you can get those, particularly from your most recent experience, that's kind of like a letter of reference. And I'll show you one in mine that are how they work. I've actually incorporated some of that in my actual employment section. Let's take a look at some sample. Well, before we do that, let's take a look at the profile. And what do you see? Again, you can see in this particular one, I've got the open to work banner open. I've opened it up to the world of LinkedIn. It allows you to have at least 5 additional job titles that are in there. Okay, I've happened to use the pipe character in my headline. Sorry about that. In my headline, if you use that pipe character, it's the shift key. It's the key above the enter key on your keyboard, and shift to use it. Okay. Again, if you use that, be sure and separate the pipe from with a blank space on either side. Otherwise, the term will not be searchable in LinkedIn, and you hate to not show up when somebody does a search. Well, let's take a look at some titles. These are some ones that are true. If somebody's unemployed or retired, they're true statements, but probably not the ones you want to use on your profile. Seeking a new opportunity is fairly descriptive, but again, it may not be the description that you want. Take that out of the way. Again, formerly VP of Finance, probably a true statement, but again, formally says he's out of work. The question recruiters have, and even in today's economy, how long has he been out of work? How long has he been out of touch? Or she, for that matter. Another one, experienced digital design engineer, giving a little bit more description other than just seeking a new opportunity. It tells a little bit more about the person, and somebody's more likely to click through on your profile. Social media strategist and content manager, seeking a new opportunity. has experience with print and digital, shorthand for those types of media that they're used. They've been involved with public relations. They have marketing and corporate communications in their portfolio. While this one is short, supply chain, procurement, and purchasing, it is descriptive of somebody's background. They have proficiency probably in all three of these areas. Again, I talked with a candidate last week that had those three things. He didn't have, I asked him why he didn't put logistics in. He said, well, I've never worked with logistics. And he's been a VP in those areas. So those are some of the things you want to have. Senior accountant, if you do a search in the Dallas area for senior accountant, you're probably going to get an accountant will show up about 50,000 people with that in their profile. So add some more detail like GL, general ledger. You can use AP or AR, accounts payable or accounts receivable, financial reporting, cost accounting, or all the other things that are descriptive of what somebody does, enticing the reader to click through and read more. Executive assistant, again, about 40,000 of those in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I know because when I was at Lehigh Harrison, we were working with candidates who had that kind of background. They were looking for jobs. You want to add more detail. She has a budgeting experience and event planning experience. Project managers, this one is pretty short again, but again has IDLE, Scrum Master, and Agile. Those are some hot buzzwords for IT recruiters right now in that particular field. So those are the things that you want to include in your headline. General manager, manufacturing and aerospace, again, pretty short and succinct, but it gives the indication that he got background in aerospace manufacturing and have been at an executive level. So those are pretty narrow. That kind of defines the field for somebody in that area. But you want to have a great, you can have a great summary, but if you don't have a LinkedIn headline that attracts people, they may not read through to your summary. And recruiters prefer to have candidates they know that have experience in the fields that they're looking for. LinkedIn has allowed you to go through, and now it used to be 120 characters in your headline. You now have about 220 to play with. And you can use adjectives to award with it. So you can use something like accomplished or tenacious, okay? Those are things that you can do, and we'll show you that, how I use that in my profile. Again, this is my old profile, as you notice. Again, I beefed it up. You can look what's there. I've added a few things there. In other words, I've gone from about 100 characters to about 200 characters of that. I've added words like accomplished recruiter, okay, successful executive recruiter, okay, highly skilled technical recruiter, sought after speaker at works and seminars. So there's a difference, and you can see what it looks like on the changes that are there. And here are some more descriptive headlines. Again, using adjective, accountant, senior accountant, increased productivity in highly regulated industries, kind of like utilities or some of the things like that. Okay, they're regulated. VP marketing, global marketing. Again, what have they done in that area? Well, one of the results, creating value through effective strategy that increased sales by 40%. Arouses somebody's curiosity, and they may want to look further at your profile. Again, an IDLE, Scrum Master, Agile, able to relate to high-tech customers. One of the things about technology is technology has a disconnect between that and a lot of the users, particularly at the executive level. So somebody who can relate to technology in terms of that the executive level can understand is very important. Likewise, business analysts can take the technical and relate it back to the requirements from the customer, relate it back to the techies in the organization. So those are just some things to include in your headlines. I'm going to touch on open to work section next. Again, it allows you, when you click that open to work, and you have a couple of options. Again, what kind of work that you're open to, it gives you up to 5 job titles. And you notice with this one, as I start to put in career, it gave me the choice of a number of different titles with career. Career services might be somebody at a college or university, a career advisor, career consultant, career services specialist, again, probably in an academic environment. Okay, it allows you to say whether you want to work on site, hybrid, or remote, and locationally. Okay, and I'm active, tells the recruiter what they're doing. So this gives the recruiter some additional information. And recruiters are always, again, location is important because recruiters are always looking for people who are willing to come to their location. And again, a lot of searches are based on distance from the job. Okay, they don't want candidates more than 20, 25 miles from work. Because applicants have taught recruiters, I don't want to drive that far. So again, that's something to consider about using the open to work section. Okay, I mentioned the dashboard of the analytics section. This is something that you can take a look at. Notice in this one, I'd appeared on 160 search appearances, but only 83 of them had actually looked at my profile. Again, and posting, keeping activity, that's another area. If you comment on a post, and I commented on a post this morning, it was kind of interesting about recruiters. Again, the featured section below the analytics allows you to add things like your presentations that you made. That's 3 of the LinkedIn presentations that I've done, but it also allows you to post an article or have your resume there or your portfolio. My son is a motion graphics designer. He has his reel or his portfolio. Advertising people frequently have a portfolio of work that they have done. This is an area where you can show some of that. People can click through on that and actually look at that. And if you do that with any of mine, you'll get the PowerPoint that we just talked about there. But if I click on this search appearances, and we'll show you what that is in just a second. Click on that, search appearances. This will show that the keywords that somebody has used when they've done a search on LinkedIn. In this case, it's a recruiter, a contract recruiter, or contract consultant. Again, those are the terms that's used. And whether they were looking for a recruiter, in my case, to help them find a job, or they were looking for a recruiter for their corporation is a little bit different. But that's unusual. Most of the jobs are going to be somebody looking for someone else. And again, this shows up the companies that they've worked for. Those searches have been. If that's somebody that's looking for a recruiter, they may not have posted a position, so you may be able to get in on the ground floor before it's actually open and get considered that way. Now, they maybe add to your target list of companies as well. Let's move on and take a look at some summary sections in the About section. Notice in this particular case, the individuals put their contact information on the first line. This is a little bit longer summary than I normally recommend, but it's a particularly well-written one. It's modified or used some bold to emphasize different words in there, the things that they've done. Again, down at the bottom, it mentions specializations or specialties. It spells out the acronym in this particular case for FP&A. Again, good recruiters in the financial area know what FP&A is, but not all recruiters understand that, and certainly not everyone around us. So if you do use an acronym, do spell it out at least the first time that you use it. Here are some other sample summaries. Okay, one of the things that you can do with LinkedIn that I don't recommend that you do with resumes, you can use first person. This first example goes into that. I'm a grateful partner. Okay, I'm known for my strategic business expertise. Okay, but they give some examples with that. Mention some key competencies, also somewhere they've got some experience at Disney World. Okay, some other things. I'm a strategic, creative, hands-on marketer. So those are some ways that you can be creative with your summary. Okay, let's move on down your profile to your experience section. This is actually a section from my profile on LinkedIn. And again, if your company is pretty well known, their logo will show up, and it picks it up in your profile. But you want to have your job title, the company name and dates. If the company is not particularly well known, you may want to add a tag for what the company does, a one-line example. It also has your duties and responsibilities. Again, I suggest that you limit that to 3 to 5 lines. Much more than that, it gets too wordy. People just don't tend to read through that. We live in an instant society where you can look at things like your profile, like your LinkedIn, not your LinkedIn, but your mailbox in the morning. You tend to look at your email and you look at who sent you an email and the subject line and make a decision whether to read it or not. So again, think about that same thing with somebody's looking at your profile or your resume. Again, in this particular case, I limited it to 4 lines. I've got a couple of bullet accomplishments that I had in there as well. Again, I used an asterisk there because I don't know whether LinkedIn does allow you to use bullets like I've shown up there, because this was a cut and paste into my LinkedIn profile. But I also included something from a former boss. This was the farewell note that she sent out to the recruiting team at Oracle when I left back in 2010. Gives us some idea of how I was thought of by the company. So that's something that you can do with your profile. Again, with your profile, they've added some additional things that you can add. Volunteer experience, I saw that on somebody's resume last week. You can also include a section for you when you're out of work, a current position. She had that on her resume as well. And I do recommend that because that's one of the things that LinkedIn looks at. Do you have a current job? Well, your current job may be looking for a job. If so, why not talk about it? In this case, put in software developer looking for a full-time position rather than a company, put the industry that they're looking in and where they're located. Again, the artificial intelligence is there on location. You notice as I start to type in Dallas, it gives me a number of choices that are there. So add that current position if you're unemployed, because having an up-to-date position, more likely to get a connection request, and that you'll get more profile views and you might get more communications. If you're a project, you have a lot of project experience, a lot of IT people. When I was with Oracle, I'd get resumes that, because a lot of the consultants had worked projects, they'd list every project and all the details of the project, and you can include that. I just included one when I was with the Dallas-Fort Worth Staffing Management Association. I was the program manager for a number of years with them. You don't want to include that, but it gives you a chance to share more detailed information about your experience. Moving further down your profile, we'll talk about skills and endorsements. Okay, as you see here, they give you up to 50, and LinkedIn displays 3 of those when you look at it. Okay, and we'll take a look at that in a minute. But you can click on simply add journalism. If I wanted to click on journalism, just click that and it'd show up there. If you start to type in one that's not recognized by LinkedIn, it won't let you include it. But if you do that, if you want to look at your profile and look at the skills that are shown, usually 3 just show. So if you executive search and consulting and talent acquisition were not the ones that I want to do, I want to click on that 3 dots out besides take a skills test. If you click on that, it moves to a screen that says reorder your skills and endorsements. In doing that, you can come over here to the side. There are 4 bars. If I hold my cursor over there and hold it down, I can drag and drop any one that's there. So if I want a professional recruiting to be on top and not executive search, I could pull that up to the top and it would reorder those. But that's an easy way to get those done. And again, you want to click on the ones that are most significant for you as you apply for jobs, and going in and changing them periodically. Changes or activity on your LinkedIn profile. Again, that's one of the factors that add value, because activity is measured on LinkedIn, whether you're a current user and actively looking or not. Again, let's take a look at other. You might ask the question, well, why would I want to look at other people's profile? Well, do a search for yourself. If you go in and look at people, as this was shown, I started out with jobs. When I did a job search, when you do the job search, there's a drop-down arrow over here called jobs, and that arrow, if you click on it, people is one that you can choose on. So if you do that, click on, let's say, recruiter in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and there were, in this case, 26,000. Actually, there were about 30,000 now, or 35,000 in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Well, if you're not showing up in that first 10 screens, that's 100 thumbnail sketches, you might want to take a look at some of those people's resume and see what word they've got in theirs that rates them at the top. And if it's appropriate, take some of those words and try it in yours. See if it doesn't improve your rating. This is actually one to click through on Renee Lane. Okay, we're 2nd degree connections. Again, she's open to work. She's looking for a job, but she's got some other information about her. But her contact information, all she's done with her headline is senior recruiter. But that's not very robust. I would suggest that she add a few titles to that. Again, but she's listed other titles down here in her open to work section, in her about section. So those are just some of the things that you can find that are going to add credence to who you are. How do you go about searching for LinkedIn? How does LinkedIn search for jobs? Okay. And how do they run searches? How do recruiters run the searches? Are there some differences? Now, what a recruiter, take a look at some recruiter search results and then searching for jobs for you. So what do recruiters really look for? Well, you receive, as I mentioned, a score for each section of your profile and for all of your activity on LinkedIn. And your search ranking is based on the sum of these values. The higher scores appear at the top of the list of results of candidates when they run a search. So they generally look for a match of these things: job titles in your current and past jobs, in your headline section, your about to work section, your open to work and about section, and your employment section. So this is a way that you can stuff that full of things like recruiter or accountant, other keywords in your profession. Okay, skills and experience. The next thing they look at, I mentioned keywords and skills. Recruiters like to find candidates who have the experience that they're seeking, rather than giving somebody a chance or looking for that jack of all trades. And by the way, I've never searched for jack of all trades as a recruiter. I've had candidates who had responsibilities that covered a multitude of different areas. So I guess you could call them a jack of all trades. So they look at keywords and skills. They look at industries and specific companies. It's particularly true with the healthcare industry. It's notorious for looking for candidates only within the field of healthcare. Okay. Education is very important to some companies. I know I've interviewed in one of my resumes, I was asked, they were seeking a candidate from a top 10 business school in the United States, about MBA school. I happened to have gone to the University of California, so I thought I'll at least fly. I did get an interview with a company, didn't get the job, but an interesting application process. You look at geographic area. I mentioned that recruiters tend to look for candidates who are within 20 to 25 miles of their location. Reason being, they're more likely to accept a job. There are exceptions to that if you're willing to travel extensively or you're looking to relocate, certainly. And current and prior companies. Recruiters do look at your pedigree. They look at who the companies that you work for and how long have you been there. I had one candidate who had a number of jobs recently. Again, well, if you know what's going on in the industry right now with COVID and those kind of things, short-term job assignments are not something that's necessarily frowned on, although there are hiring managers who say, that's a job hopper, I'm not going to consider them. And then recruiters tend to look and bear down and zero in on your actual summary and experience. They read further. Again, we'll take a look at what Kurt Vandemeyer, I've copied the screen from his presentation. I'll show you what that looks like in just a second. This is the actual screen, one of the three screens that he uses. And you notice that there are a number of things: job titles, location, skills and assessment, companies, schools, and years of experience in industries. He can click all of those and those through, he can narrow it down. In this slide, there were 710 million candidates worldwide on LinkedIn. He can narrow that down to about 70 within 30 seconds, letting the computer do all the work based on the criteria that he selects. So those are just some of the things to be aware of when a recruiter does a search. So let's take a look at the first screen that a recruiter has done. This one, the recruiter has been kind of lazy, I think. They've just used the word accountants. By doing that, it defaults to the United States. He hasn't specified a location, so it defaults to the United States. That's one good thing about LinkedIn. It's very specific about that. But in that particular case, his search through 4,281,000. As a recruiter, that's probably not very efficient to have to sort through all those. So he should list a couple of other things that he should have here in terms of location, okay, our titles, skills that somebody has. What are they, a junior accountant? Again, the accounting skills that we mentioned. So that's not a very effective search term in that particular case, but it does have titles that you can look at: location, skills, companies, and industries, things that they can search for. Even if the recruiter has not subscribed to LinkedIn software license, which runs about $10,000 a year per seat, or the software of a recruiter light, which is about $5,000 a year, recruiters still use LinkedIn for searching. I didn't ever have one of the seat license and used it very effectively as a recruiter. So let's take a look at some results from some of the recruiters accordingly. Let's take a look at another search result. In this particular situation, we were looking for a product manager from Seattle area, although we would consider somebody from the San Francisco Bay Area. My touchpad is very sensitive, so I can't touch it very effectively. Okay, product management, product marketing, they were looking for skills for that. Again, this particular case had about 6,900 candidates that showed up, okay, in their search. Again, that's a pretty big search, and I would probably narrow it down with some other filters. Again, we'll take a look at filters in just a minute because they work for both recruiters looking for candidates and for you looking for jobs. Well, let's take another search. This particular one is from the Chicago area, okay, but they would consider candidates from the San Francisco area or New York. They were looking for a project manager. Again, that's a pretty robust field, even in most areas of the country, with about 43,000 candidates in that marketplace that have that in their profile. But up here, as you notice, open to a new opportunity, that's open to work, okay? Those are the ones that I would tend to go after first, because as recruiters, they like candidates who are open or actively seeking a new job, particularly if they meet the criteria that I've established for the job. In that particular case, but you notice also in that particular case that there were that number of candidates. They focused on the job title and the skills as well, okay? Business strategy and analytics, but they also tossed in a university with with the Northwestern, which is up in Evanston, just north of the Chicago area. Probably not limited to that, but again, those are the criteria. The more matches, the higher the level of the match. Well, how do we go about the process for you for looking for a job? Well, if you were to click on, you can use the original search box to start with, or you can go to the Jobs tab and click on that. If you open the Jobs tab, this is what it's going to look like. Search for jobs, or search by location. If you enter a title and don't enter a location and haven't been searching before, it's going to default to the United States, as I mentioned, as you start to type in that. Well, those are some of the things that you can do looking for jobs. Well, let's take a look at actual situations and take a look at a job. In this case, I put in senior accountant in Plano, Texas. I didn't put in Dallas because somebody was living in Plano. It's starting to show up. Again, they were within 25 miles. That's the default setting on most of the job boards. For candidates, again, because candidates, as I said, have taught recruiters, I don't want to drive more than 25 miles to work. So that's the first thing that you want to take a look at. Again, the first job that's shown there, here, the senior account is promoted. That means somebody is paid for it. Okay. And again, that description is over here to the right-hand side of the screen. So let's take a look. There's a sign up at the top called All Filters. And if you click on that, this is a list of the filters. They don't show up this way now on that. They'll show up alongside the job. But I like this particular version that they had because it shows many of the filters. You can notice one of the first things that I recommend everybody do if it's a job that's in demand is click on within the past week. On other job boards allow you to narrow that down to 3 days, because otherwise you notice on this particular search for a recruiter in Dallas County, there were almost 2,100 jobs. Most of those are probably out of date. Of those, it says that 634 have been posted in the last week. You can also search by salary. So I had somebody whose salary level was above 100K. She decided not to look at anything below 100K for starters. Now you can come back if you don't find what you're looking for, maybe take something less that's close to home, saying you don't have to drive. But that's something that LinkedIn picked up from Indeed.com. The easy apply, I want to touch on that, is something else that you can do that LinkedIn has adopted. You can do that. If you do that and it allows you to upload your resume, I say that's okay. If it simply takes your profile, you don't want to do that because your profile may not be customized for what the job is, may not do the best job of presenting your strengths and your experience. Again, you can search by industry, you can search by job type. Again, most jobs on all of the job boards are going to be permanent full-time positions. You can search by locations. So if I were looking for a job in Dallas County and I didn't want to look out in Irving, may live in Garland, that's a pretty long commute. But you can search by company, you can search by industry. So those are some of the filters that you can use. If you don't get what you want, you can do a clear, which will clear you back to your original search without having to re-enter the search terms in the search boxes up there. Okay, this is another search. In this case, I used quality assurance. I didn't use manager. I was just looking for all the jobs that came up in quality assurance. I was doing a presentation for somebody who was with the ASQ, which is American Society for Quality. They're meeting and gave a presentation for them. So we're looking for quality people. So we didn't narrow it down, didn't use the filters. And again, the filters over here on this particular one, we could use that to look at a manager, okay, later, okay. But you can use that to narrow the filter down. But they had about 2,000 jobs, even though that's within the last week. Everything from a quality inspector to the next position, which is a quality manager. By adding quality assurance manager, I narrowed it down to 174 jobs. Okay. Again, we looked at salary wise. This one gives a salary estimate 125 to 135 per year on that. Not all the jobs are there, and not all of the salaries there that the estimate there are going to be shown, or the salary shown are going to be the actual salary, because many of the jobs don't post this particular salary. Okay. You can also, when you've done a job search, there's something up here called a search button. If you want to create a job search for that company or a recruiter, you can turn the search button on by moving the radio button to the right. It will give you the option of a daily or weekly. Again, if you collect daily, it's going to show up in your email probably by 8 o'clock every morning. Okay, otherwise you can do it on a weekly basis. And you can do that, just click on save, and this is what it looks like when you have it on the screen. But that's a way to have jobs pushed out to you rather than having to go search for them every week. Last thing I want to talk about is some homework for you. You want to complete the job, complete each section of your profile. It doesn't have to be lengthy, but have something in every one of the boxes. Use the name that you want to be called by. Again, my legal name is John Locke Alderson Jr. If I play with a telemarketer when they call and ask for John Alderson, I say, which one? And they ask for senior. And I say, well, he's been not with us for about 20 years, passed away a number of years ago. So again, use the name that you want to be called by. Make it easy for that person talking to you on the phone to reach out to you. The headline, use the job title or titles. You can use multiple titles that you're looking for. They may not be a job that you've actually had in the past, okay, but you can. Otherwise, it will default, as I mentioned, the headline will default to the last job title in your employment section. Complete the open to work section. Take advantage of that. Okay, even if you're not actively looking, and I have a candidate who's not actively looking, she's in process because her company, she's fearful that her company is going to lay her off and go through some reorg. So she started a campaign to find a job now. So she's only limited her activity to recruiters. Okay, include your email and phone number on the first line of your about section. You can be elsewhere in there, but make it easy for me to reach out to you. Your experience section, make the names understandable. Again, you don't know who your audience is, so use terms that they can understand. And show the measurable results. What were the results of performing your duties? What were the accomplishments? Because they add credibility to your experience. Do and use keywords from your profession. If you don't know what they are, take a look at some of those job postings that you're applying for and pull them out of there. Those should be in your profile as well as in your resume. The skills, choose the ones that you want rather than the ones that LinkedIn chooses for you, because they will. Okay. And the other thing that I don't mention, do a people search about yourself. The other thing I will say, if you find jobs and it's not on here, when you're looking for a job, if you find a job, do something about it within 72 hours, because jobs tend to fill up. I know a friend who ran a position for a project engineer, project manager here in Dallas. She had 300 responses in the first hour and took the posting down. So again, you may miss out on some because of that. Now, some other professions where the jobs are not as proficient. I had a candidate up who was a health and environmental safety engineer in Arkansas. There are probably 4 companies that were looking for people like that. So those kind of jobs may stay open a lot longer. But those are just some things that you can do to work on your profile. Jeff, I'm back to you.
All righty. Well, what would you like to do now?
Well, if we can look at some people's profiles.
All right, if you'd like us to look at your profile, we'll be glad to call it up here and offer some suggestions. You do need to shrink down your screen a little bit, however you did that.
Okay.
All right, Laura Simon would like us to look at hers.
Let me close this window. Okay. Window is closed, Jeff.
Do you want me to call it? Do you want me to do it from my end?
Yeah, if you don't want to do it, bring it up on your end. We'll take a look at that.
All right.
Sorry, I had it live and it was there and it disappeared.
Yeah, give me a second here. Let me get it up and going here, and then we'll share the screen. All right. Let's see here. Share screen. Here we go. All right. So let's take a look for you told me first, Lauren. Lauren Simon.
Okay.
Boy, do you see
That's
that?
you, Lauren, the first one?
Let's see here. The link is in the chat. All right, hold on. Let me go back and find your. Here we go. All right, here she is.
Okay. Well, the first thing what I noticed, she's got, it's a nice background or banner shot. Again, that's okay. It might be a strength that if you had a word cloud behind yours, it tells a little bit more about you. Which name do you go by, Lauren? You use your full name there. Again, is Turner Simon married name and okay. Again, make it, if you go by unusual like Locke, like I do, you want to use the name, put that first in there and leave the other one out, okay? Open to work is okay. Let's go back up, Jeff, for second and click on contact information. Is she a first or second degree? Okay,
She is
she's a second degree.
secondary connection, so you won't see a lot of information.
One of the things that you want to do, Lauren, on this, if you're not going to open up your security settings, she does have her email address, so it can get in touch with her. Okay, but again, if you're not a first degree connection, you may want to open up in your about section. That's why I say put your contact information on the top line. Makes it easier for her to get in touch with.
One of the things I also want to point out is over here on the right-hand side, people also viewed. You want to turn that feature off. That's in your settings, because why do you want to show 10 other people who look just like you? So I would go into your settings and turn off people also viewed. Your about section doesn't have a lot of information in it.
Well, yeah, you can beef that up. You have 2,000 characters in your about section. Again, put your name, your contact information on the first line. Okay, you can look at mine and do that. Okay, but you can talk more about that. This is kind of a summary of your experience. And it's a good idea to have that. Going
and be sure to put in your contact information here so people can also reach out to you. Because if you're not connected to somebody, if you're not a first degree connection, you don't get to see what's in their connection request or what's in their contact information. So by putting, everybody can open up and read the about section.
Again, the other thing that you noticed about our about section, there are 4 lines which show with hers. It's usually only 3 or 4 lines that show up without the 3 dots to see more over to the side. And there's nothing there. So that's just something you can add a lot more information that's there. Okay?
Right, right.
Let's take a look at her experience. She's in Atlanta. Okay. Again, what have you done for BLS company? Who is BLS? It's a Schafford Mobility. Is that the kind of company that it is? It sounds like that's the company that it is, which is okay. And director of sales, I would indicate some indication of the volume of sales that you had, how many people. Is it a local position for the greater Atlanta metropolitan area, or is it for all of Georgia? Okay, those are things that people look for. Again, what were some of the accomplishments that you had in those kind of positions? If you increase sales by 50% or 100%, those are the kind of things that people are interested in your profile and on your resume, by the way. Keep going, Jeff. Okay, she's worked in the hospitality and travel industry, so that's good. She's got a certification there. She's also done some volunteer experience, which is another section that LinkedIn has offered. I've included most of my volunteer experiences actually in my employment experience. Okay, so because in some cases you do get that.
Well, for Locke, for you and me back in the day, they didn't have a volunteer section.
That's true.
So we had to put everything.
I've not revised my profile accordingly. So
yeah.
Okay. Skills, I don't know that cold calling is necessarily one that I would want to have up there. Account executive, what are some of the skills that you've done? What are some of the titles that you've had? You've got that. You can also put in your headline that you've worked in hospitality, travel, or other words, keywords that you might want to put in your actual headline. You've got recommendations from a couple of people, and that's great. Okay.
Only problem is, though, these were from 2014 and 2010. So quite frankly, I would just hide those, because if they're not from 2021, 2022, or 2023, they don't really mean anything at this point. I mean, because that's 9 years ago. So quite frankly, I'd hide those unless you have some new ones.
Okay. Let's
So
see if there's somebody else, Jeff.
Do what?
See if somebody else wants to look at their profile or look for a job.
Okay, all right, let's see here. We had somebody else want to look at their profile. Let's see here. Richard Dorn. Hold on. I see it here.
DOA.
The first one, right, Richard?
No, it's
No.
DOA. All right, right there. Yep.
There we are.
Okay. He is a direct connection for you where Jeff, he's open to work. He's got VP, good titles. Okay.
He's made it easy for people to reach out. It's got an email address and phone number right there.
The other thing I would question in terms of your headline, let's see what you've got. Move it up a little bit, Jeff, so we can look at the open to work section. Okay. Again, VP, president, organization manager. What are the career fields that you've worked in? What are the industries? You've mentioned fleet management and transportation. Again, those are the things that are people.
Okay.
I've not searched for things as a recruiter like P&L management. They're a part of the duties for a lot of executives, but it's a given. I'm not going to search for that. So
Gotcha.
I'm looking for somebody in transportation or logistics, are probably the two fields that I can think of for yours. There may be others. Okay. Trucking might be specifically more specific, or rental car. Could be other types of transportation, or public utilities like was it Dart in Atlanta? What is the one in Atlanta? The public transportation, Metro.
Yeah.
So if you have that kind of experience, that's what you want to put down there as well.
Yeah.
Fleet management is good. Okay. Okay, he's got a C more there. Notice how he was only 2 lines of his showed up. Okay, but he's got his contact information at the top. Again, another thing that Terry Sullivan would tell you about you've got 5 and 6 lines at a time. I would use and break it up into shorter segments. Put a carriage return like every level there. Put a carriage return in there.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Put one right here. Yeah. I mean, every 3 to 4 lines, you should put one on there.
Yeah.
Something
Again,
short, you know, here.
the other things that you could do is increase in revenue, 16 million to 77 billion. That's a highlight that you can pull out as a bullet or an asterisk or a dash.
Okay.
It can be something separate that's indented a little bit. So it shows up and it can be in bold, or it could be pulled in just under that. So if you pull that
Okay.
out separately and do a carriage return and put that as an asterisk before it with a blank after it, it'll show up and it's a little bit more effective for reading it.
Good deal.
You put a date in there that shows that you're current with that, so that you've done it this month, which is actually good. Okay. So trucking and transportation, you've tended to work in that particular industry. Okay.
Yep.
You've
Almost
used
30 years.
You've used bullets that are there. Again, the only problem with using a bulleted format like that as a recruiter in 6 to 10 seconds, what are you asking me to look at? So I might break that up and use narrative to give 2 or 3, 4 lines to actually describe your duties, and then pull out what some of the highlights were, like the increased net revenue from 300,000 to 3 million in 2 years.
Okay.
Those are highlight kind of things, break up. So put the narrative, use the narrative to describe the duties, and then show the highlights as asterisks, because there's a lot of asterisks that are there. And I know that you can scan a lot of those in a hurry. But again, you're asking, what are you asking the recruiter to do? Another thing that's interesting there is there's some merged. The JB Hunt experience has merged a couple of experiences together. That's what that line to the side, the left side there is. Somebody looked at my profile by my E-Systems, not my E-Systems, but by Siebel and Raytheon experience are merged.
But that's also because I've worked there almost 23 years.
Yeah, I know, but if you've had other companies that have been acquired, they will show the acquired company as a subsidiary, they'll show up as linked together like that.
Gotcha.
Okay,
Yeah, it looks good the way you've got that done.
you've got it. You've got it. You've done well. Okay,
Thank you.
he's taken some LinkedIn certifications. Okay, class of the test we mentioned that you can look at in the skills area. You can take those and it'll show the credential. Okay, they have a lot of this. They have soft skills in those skills that you can take. He's got some good volunteer experience like that. As I say, that's a separate section now that you can take advantage of. The other thing in your open to work area, if you haven't mentioned and it didn't mention, are you open to working in other areas? Because you've noticed that you've worked in Texas and you work there now in Atlanta. So if you're open to other areas in your about section, show the details. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, you're in Atlanta now, so this is telling somebody that you're open to relocation. That's something else that you can include in your headline.
No, Richard's actually in Dallas, so, or the DFW area.
Okay, I thought I saw it Atlanta for one of the jobs.
That was the prior person we were at. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
That's
I
okay.
get confused. I'm getting kind of older. Okay. We've got time for one more, either look at their profile or look at for a job for somebody.
Well, let's look at a job for somebody. Somebody give me a job title that you're interested in, and we will pop in a job title.
Now, notice Jeff is starting out at the main search bar. Okay, now he could go with that. He could go over to the jobs tab and do it that way. You can do it either way. Start with the main search box. Okay. So
Give us a job, business, okay, BUSIN, business development manager. Now, I always recommend use the default job titles that pop up here so that when you're filling out your profile, don't make up a creative job title. Use the ones that LinkedIn already has built in there.
okay.
So,
Notice what Jeff did there because he didn't enter a title. He hasn't searched today. But, okay,
Right.
so it defaulted to the United States.
so
The
we'll
next
go
thing that
past
looks-
week
Yeah, check for 1 week. Okay.
and, oh yeah,
At
location.
that, notice with the United States, there are almost 42,000 jobs available in the United States. So I want to put,
Where, let's see here, user, where are you located at? Your name just pops up as user. You can hold down the space bar or
yeah,
Atlanta, okay? Atlanta metropolitan area. So now we're down to 1,100 people.
the other thing that you go want to just take a look over is click on the all filters. We'll show it that is now on the right 1/3 of the screen. It allows you to take some searches. Again, we're probably not looking at internship. You're probably looking at mid-senior or director or above. Okay. It allows you to check. If you just do those and show results, it narrowed it down to 650. No, so that narrowed it down significantly.
And I'm assuming you're wanting a full-time job. Let's just do full-time. That knocks it down a little bit more.
As I said, most of the jobs on LinkedIn and the other job boards are going to be permanent full-time. Other people are going to look for, occasionally will look for an internship or a contract gig. Something else that you can look at. If you have an industry
a certain area
specialization,
that you'd like to do this in.
how about an industry specialization?
Industrial, let's see here. Well, I really don't see industrial. So maybe manufacturing.
You
Yeah,
can add one down there.
manufacturing.
Okay.
So manufacturing takes us down to 16. So let's just look at those 16. And here are 16 jobs for business development manager in the Atlanta Metroplex area.
Phil ask a question, Joe. I'll answer while you're looking further. Phil, on the area, you can type in Plano as opposed to Atlanta. Makes it real easy.
So right up here at the very top, this is where
Yeah.
you change your address.
So if he wanted to have one of the other areas in the Atlanta area, like Calhoun, Georgia, something, he could type that one in,
Right.
or Norcross.
So here are jobs set up. And then if you want to set an alert for this particular
Skill set.
business development manager in the Atlanta area, if you click this on, you'll then start getting emails with jobs that meet this qualification. And then you can go through, you can check any one of these jobs and check and see what's there.
Now, again, notice some of the titles that show up are not the titles that you're looking for, like human resources manager. Okay, they're going to show up because somewhere in that person may be recruiting for, that manager may be recruiting for business development.
Right. Yeah,
Or
visual
general manager.
merchandising manager, that's really different. Yeah, that's not necessarily the
So
job
again,
you're looking for.
It still requires you to do some things as well, looking at it. Jeff, I think we're out of time. I will say thanks for letting me appear again today, putting up with me and my technical shortcomings. I will say that my slide deck is available. If you want to send me an email at lockealderson@gmail.com, I'll send you the entire slides. I didn't go over all the slides, so we can take a look at a couple of profiles today. So there's another section that I didn't cover.
Right. So there's Locke's email address. If you'd like to get a slide deck, just send an email to lockealderson@gmail.com. Locke, thank you very, very much for your time.
Thanks for
today.
having me.
All right. Let's see here. A couple more slides. Next week, our speaker is going to be Ruth Lipsky. She's going to talk about how to drive recruiters to your LinkedIn profile. Ruth works for Lee Heck Harrison. She works with job seekers on a daily basis, helping them get better in what they're doing for their job search. So join us next Tuesday at 1 o'clock. If everybody will please raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Jeff Morris, promise to always send a personal note whenever I send a LinkedIn request to connect with anyone. This includes when I use my cell phone or my computer. I'll pop Locke's email address back up here in just a second. One of the things we didn't talk about is on LinkedIn, there's two different kinds of connect buttons. There's a white connect button and a blue connect button. If you click on the white connect button, it will automatically send the generic invitation. So whenever you see a white connect button, click on the person's face. It will take you to their profile. When you go to their profile, you should be able to, if you're on a PC or Mac, click on the blue connect button and it will allow you to add a personal note when you send an invitation. If you're using a tablet or a cell phone, the mobile app, the blue connect button will send the automatic invitation. So what you need to do is click on the little three dots or the little hamburger that's off to the side where you have more options. And one of the more options will be send a personalized invitation.
Yeah, you can also do that on if they're second or third degree and they have, follow, you can, on the follow, it says show more, you click on those three dots and you can send them a connect that way if they're second or third degree connections.
Right. So
Which gets
Career Academy and Career USA, we're putting on training 4 days a week. Please join us. Tomorrow afternoon at 1 o'clock, the practice interview team is now meeting in person for the first and third Wednesdays of the month. Though tomorrow being the first Wednesday of the month, they are going to be meeting in person. We have an actual practice interview to watch. So if you live here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, come join us and watch an actual practice interview. I'll be on the panel. I just printed off all the information as far as the person I will be interviewing. And it'll be a really great experience for you to come watch a real practice interview. There'll be no online or Zoom or Facebook session tomorrow. The next session that we'll do that online will be in a week and a day on June 14th. This Thursday being the second Thursday of the month, we're going to talk all about networking strategies to manage your career. Terry worked at Walt Disney for many, many years. She personally knew Walt Disney. She says the kid, she used to go over to his house all the time. So she's going to be talking about how to manage your career. It's a great presentation. Come join us Thursday at 1 o'clock. And then this Friday morning at the North Dallas Plano Career Focus Group meeting, the group is meeting in person. So if you live here in the DFW area, please come join us. If not, you can watch us on Zoom or Facebook. Free publicity. This is a story that this is a book actually that Jeff Crilly wrote. Jeff Crilly used to be he's an Emmy Award winning news reporter, used to be with Fox 4 here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And he has actually started his own public relations firm and has done extremely well. So you'll hear his story and it's always an interesting presentation. It's sort of motivational to see what you can do and how you can sort of, get yourself in the right place at the right time. So Jeff will be with us Friday morning at 9:30. If you're welcome to join the Career DFW or Career USA LinkedIn groups. You do not need to live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area to join the Career DFW group. It's just that I started that group when I started the website. If you do join us, we have over 14,800 members, so it's a great way to connect with other people. But I will tell you this, make sure your profile is mostly complete because probably 1 out of 15 people in that group are in HR or in recruiting. Because I look at everybody's profile and these people are trying to find you. This session has been recorded. You will be able to go back and look at it on the Career DFW or Career USA YouTube channel. On the Career USA YouTube channel, click on playlist and then pick the list you want. I have over 500 videos currently up on the channel. But if you click on whichever list you want, if you click on LinkedIn, at the very, we see that red arrow, view full playlist, up will come a list of the dates, the speaker, and their title of the topic that they talked about. And you're welcome to join us and go back and watch any of those at your convenience. If you're not receiving emails about our workshops and you'd like to join the Career USA mailing list, please just scan this QR code or send an email to Career USA, +subscribe@groups.io. That QR code will start an email, and all you have to do is hit send. You don't have to add any additional information. It's just send an email to get on the mailing list. It has to come from your email address. You'll never be spammed, but what you will get is the topic of the day, the title of the day, and most importantly, the Zoom link of the day.
Jeff, we had one question and I'm gonna try and answer before we leave. I think it's important. For Linda, who asked, how do you create a LinkedIn profile? I'd go to YouTube and just enter creating a LinkedIn profile, and you'll find some how-tos for that real quick.
Right. And I see Locke put his email address in the chat window, so the person who was asking about that, it is in there. Please remember, Career DFW, we're a 501c3 nonprofit organization. Locke's a volunteer. All of our speakers are volunteers. I'm a volunteer. Everything I've done over the last 14 and a half years has just been to help you land your next great opportunity. So thank you very much for joining us today, everybody. Have a great afternoon, and hopefully we'll see you tomorrow in person at the Pit Crew or Thursday or Friday. Locke, thank you once again.
Thank you, Jeff.